topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
And welcome to the Camping Show. This is CW Getz. It is Wednesday, April 21st, 2021. Now, I realize this isn't the show that we advertised last week. We had to reschedule that show, or in the process of it. And we were planning on doing this show a little bit later in the season. I guess I shouldn't say in the season, but probably about a month from now. I think we were talking maybe a month and a half. But as it goes, we're going to put this show on now. We assembled this show very quickly and efficiently the other day, or last few days. And I have to thank these gentlemen here that are with us tonight for helping me with that. So this is going to be a fun show. Tonight's episode is called Creatures That Slither, Friend or Foe. And my special guests are Bryan Jeffrey and Mark Etre. I'm going to read you their introductions here. 30-year-old Virginian Mark Etre has always been fascinated with snakes. As a kid, he would often observe them in the mountainous areas of Virginia, and at every opportunity would watch documentaries about snakes on television. Mark currently works with all types of animals at a rescue zoo in Virginia and has been working with snakes professionally for nearly 10 years. And for Bryan Jeffrey, reptiles have always interested 36-year-old Californian Bryan Jeffrey, who as a kid wasn't allowed to keep snakes or lizards. As a teenager, he used to catch Southern Pacific rattlesnakes with sticks. Bryan currently owns several species of native rattlesnakes and also teaches people the best methods of keeping their property free of rattlesnakes, as well as how to coexist with them in the wild. So with that, welcome to the show, Bryan and Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
How's it going? Thank you.
How you doing, Bryan?
I didn't know if I was going to be able to connect.
Yeah, I understand we had some connectivity issues there, but you look clear in the frame here, so I'm glad you were able to join us. And I might mention that our my producer Roxy is also a snake breeder. And she'll be kind of joining us here audibly, I should say, not visually, but audibly here for the show as well, and chiming in with us.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, Roxy, how you doing tonight?
I'm amazing. Talking about snakes. Love it.
Yes, you would. I'm sure you would. We always talk about that. And now finally we get to have a show. We do a show that is just right down your alley. Hey, I got to ask everybody this real quick. Mark, how's your weather there on the East Coast?
Over here?
Yeah.
It's pretty windy today and kind of chilly.
What kind of temps you got?
It's around 50 right now.
Yeah, 50. That's, I'm telling you, that's better than what we are. And by the way, my friends in Canada are not only bummed about the whole lockdown thing, and now they got snow today on top of it. So
did they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, really add insult to injury, man. So Bryan, how's the West Coast doing over there for weather? You get something better we got?
Oh yeah, it's pretty warm today. I'm actually working in Santa Monica, so I'm right by the beach.
Nice.
So it doesn't get much better than that.
Don't tell me you're in flip-flops, okay? Because I don't want to hear that. Well, that's good. At least somebody's got some good weather out there. Well, guys, it's great to have you here, and let's just jump right in, shall we?
Sounds good. All
right. Well, I think it's safe to say that most adventurers have some degree of fear towards snakes. You know, personally, I know a number of adventurers who are actually more afraid of snakes than they are of bears. So let's start with a list of the 5 most common venomous snakes found in the United States. Bryan, let's start with you.
Okay, so well, you got rattlesnakes. That's probably going to be the most common. They're going to be found throughout all of the United States, aside from Alaska, I believe, and Hawaii. And there is in the Americas 115 different species and subspecies of rattlesnakes. So it's actually the most diverse group of reptiles.
115 different species of rattlesnakes. Wow. I mean, so are all of those venomous then? Every one of them?
Yeah, to varying degrees, but yes, they are all venomous.
Wow. That's a lot. Okay, what's next? How about you, Mark?
So next, another common one would be the cottonmouth, which is also known as the water moccasin.
Okay.
And
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Those two are the same snake.
Yeah, so a common thing that I hear, is that they're two different snakes, but with common names, there's going to be a lot of different common names, but one scientific name.
Okay.
And the thing about cottonmouth is they get their name from the defensive behavior they display, where they gape and show the white of their mouth.
Oh, interesting. I was just going to ask you that. Why do they call them cottonmouths?
Yeah. So that's what it is. And in the United States, I would say this is the snake that has the most myths surround it. Would you agree, Bryan?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
So that is cottonmouth watermouse. How about another one, Mark?
The copperhead, which is in the same genus as the cottonmouth.
Okay.
And the thing with the copperhead, it's a very common name. So anytime people see the snake, they assume it's a copperhead. But in this area, especially, you can tell by the pattern on the side, looks exactly like a Hershey kiss. But when you go to like Texas, there's going to be a little bit more spaced out. It won't look like a Hershey kiss, but still very similar.
Wow. Interesting. All right. And the fifth one, Bryan.
All right. So you've also got coral snakes, and there's 3 different species of coral snake found throughout the United States. In Arizona, about southeast Arizona to the very southwest corner of New Mexico. You've got the Texas coral snake, which is southern, kind of a little bit towards the east area of Texas, and the western part of Louisiana, and there's another state in there too that they also touch on. And then you have the eastern coral snake, which is all of Florida and that general kind of coastal area to the east and north of Florida.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And they're actually the only species in the United States that requires a different type of venom than any other snake in the U.S.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, we're going to talk about venom. We're actually going to talk about venom a little bit later, but that's interesting to know. I did not know that. Mark, what's the rate of survival for people who've been bitten by venomous snakes?
So here in the United States, we're very fortunate to have good health care. So here it's a 99.9% survival rate.
Oh, wow.
So in the United States, so about 5,000 to 6,000 people each year get bit. And out of that, average would be 5 deaths per year. So that's a 0.1% chance of dying.
I know a lot of people think, well, if I get bitten by a venomous snake, I'm dead. It's going to kill me.
Not at all.
Yeah, huge myth. Wow.
And actually, just to mention, in Australia, they have good health care, but they also have the top venomous snakes on Earth, and they also have the same survival rate. So just to put it in perspective,
Oh, wow. See, this is information. I don't think most people realize this.
Yeah, they believe they're going to get bit and die.
And you die right now. It's like you got 10 minutes and you're done.
Yeah.
Oh, game over. Oh, my gosh. Hey, Bryan, do the bites from each of these species of venomous snakes differ with regard to their level of toxicity? If I can say that word.
Yes. Yeah, they vary actually quite a bit, and you've got different types of venoms. So the neurotoxic venoms are going to be the most potent, and that's coral snake is neurotoxic. They actually have a small venom yield, but the toxicity is very high.
Explain when you say neurotoxic. What for those of us who, because I'm, hey, I'm not the medical guy here. What does that mean? Neurotoxins, all that kind of stuff.
So, I mean, the short and sweet of it is that particular type of toxin is going to stop your brain's receptors and neurons from sending and communicating the basic survival functions of heartbeat, lungs, things like that.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
And then you've got other snakes like a copperhead, which is I don't think there's been a death from in years, that have very low toxicity. So
Okay.
yes, they vary quite a bit.
What's the worst one in the United States?
So that's debatable. That's something that people can argue about nonstop.
Yeah.
It would probably be the Mojave rattlesnake, the tiger rattlesnake, or the coral snake. One of those. It's one of the ones that are going to have the neurotoxic venom, because the venom, the LD50 is so low, and then with the rattlesnakes, they have a relatively high venom yield.
So those rattlesnakes are up there, the wicked nasty category.
Yeah. Those are all ones you don't want to get bit by, and if you do, you want to get to the hospital.
Yeah,
pretty quick.
That's what it sounds like. Well, so what regions now? What regions here can each of these venomous snakes be found? I mean, so we talked about the 5 of them. Which regions are specific to which ones?
As far as the ones that are highest toxicity, well, if you don't live in the southwestern United States, you're probably okay. Aside from the coral snake, the southwestern United States is where the toxic snakes really seem to enjoy living.
Really?
Yeah, that's correct. From California to I believe the west side of Phoenix in Arizona, the Mojaves are pretty toxic over there. Their venom does vary even within the species, so it can get prettle in depth.
Where we finding the cottonmouth and the cottonmouth / water moccasin? Where are we finding that snake at?
Oh, those are going to be hemotoxic venoms. So it's a tissue destroying type.
There we go. That's what I'm looking for. The little medical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm from the farm. We don't get too medical out here unless we lose a finger or something like that. So, okay. And so where do we find those cottonmouths at mostly?
Those are going to be in the southeastern United States. Cottonmouths reside in that area of the U.S. And yeah, it's a neurotoxic venom, so not nearly as much of an issue as some of the other snakes.
Okay.
The saying with hemotoxic venom. The saying with hemotoxins are time is tissue. So the quicker you get to the hospital, the better. But it's not likely to end up being a life-threatening bite.
Okay, but it will destroy some skin cells.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In other words, is that going to leave a mark? Leave a mark.
One thing to note, though. What's that?
No, Roxy just liked that comment there. Is that going to leave a mark? I could hear it.
One thing to note, though, is in the United States, the most fatal bites typically come from western diamondbacks and eastern diamondbacks.
Okay.
So, and those are actually hemotoxic venoms, but their venom yield is so high that doesn't really make too much of a difference.
So that'll affect the other part of you, the vital organs. It's because it's so high.
No, it's tissue destroying, but the venom yield on the western and eastern diamondback is quite high, so that's why they end up resulting in the most fatalities each year. Which is still a very small number.
Interesting. And how about you talked about the corals. How about the copperhead? Where are we going to find those at? Copperheads.
The copperhead's going to be a real similar range to the cottonmouth. It's going to be towards the southeastern United States.
Okay.
It covers a lot of states. It's good if you live in that general area to, kind of look to see if you're in those ranges.
Yeah. Well, we could find each of these actually probably in Arkansas too, then maybe.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But probably.
I thought I heard that they were down there. So Mark, just like this is something here, just like the unnecessary killing of bears that we hear about, by people who react out of panic. People go, oh, bear, and if they're armed, I would also assume that a lot of innocent snakes are needlessly killed for the same reason. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly right. So
Yeah.
with any animal, really education is key. Learning about them, you'll see that they're very simple animals to coexist with, very easy to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, and so people get scared, and I don't remember, because we do that. We talked before the show, of course. Uh, what was that? People, the only kind of good snake is a dead snake, and people just go out and kill these things.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
evil.
ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think, in fact, I know people do that with bears too. I mean, they panic, they're scared, they don't know what to expect, and the first thing a bear growls, or it does a huff or something, and people think, oh, that's it, he's gonna kill me, I'm dead. Snakes, same way. Am I
So
right?
Yeah,
best thing to do when you come across a venomous snake is to just simply walk away.
I was just going to ask that. Yeah. So instead of trying to kill a snake that you happen to encounter, whether you think it's venomous or not.
mm,
I was going to say, what is the best action to take? I mean, should you run, walk the other way, remain still? Some people, I've heard things, just freeze,
mm,
but you don't need to do that, do you?
not at all. So running, you have a chance of falling and getting hurt when all you have to do is walk away. And the thing about, the only good snake's a dead snake.
Yeah.
When you look at, they are healers in the natural world. When they eat a sick animal, it gets rid of that disease.
Oh,
And
wow.
they also eat the ticks that are on the animal, reducing Lyme disease. And the venom, like of copperhead, for instance,
Yeah.
they have properties that are being looked at to treat breast cancer. These are all things that Bryan, I'm sure, has tons of knowledge about, but they have they have a lot of purpose in this world, and they are actual healers of the natural world.
That's extremely interesting stuff. And I tell you, we're going to do a commercial break, but before we do that, I have to ask, I don't know which one of you fellows were talking about this, but something about a snake finding its way between your feet for some
that
reason.
was me.
That was you,
Yeah.
Bryan? Okay, what's that all about?
I'd actually like to take a step back real quick. You mentioned about the not moving. Well,
Yeah.
aside from the coral snake, all the snakes in the United States are pit vipers. So they have heat sensors on them. That's one of the ways you can distinguish the difference between like a cottonmouth and a water snake is between the nostrils and the eyes is a heat pit. So standing still doesn't matter. They know you're there. They know you're alive.
Oh.
So just something maybe to keep in mind. It also helps identify a venomous snake if you're not sure. I mean, you probably don't want to get that close anyways, but if you wind up that close and you see the heat pits, back away a little bit. We were talking about people, everybody knows somebody that had a snake attack them, charge them, come at them.
Right.
And that's not what rattlesnakes or any kind of pit viper does. One, they're ambush predators, they're waiting. Two, they want to get out of there. If they're afraid, first thing they're going to do is use their camouflage and hope you don't see them. Second thing they're going to do is try and get the heck out of there. If they don't think that they can get out of there, they're going to try and bluff. And if they can't bluff, then they've got to fight. So, fighting's their last resort.
Yeah.
One of the things that is unfortunate for rattlesnakes is they're not the brightest animals on the planet. No matter how much I enjoy keeping them, they're definitely not up there with the IQ. And if they see you and they're scared of you, they're going to look for a dark place to hide quickly. And unfortunately, sometimes that can be the shadow between your legs.
That's what we were talking. Yeah. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah. So it's an unfortunate case of mistaking the shadow between your legs for a good hiding spot to get away from you. They're not super bright, and it's not a malicious attack. It's
interesting.
It's just them trying to get away in the worst possible way.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people would say, "Hey, oh my gosh, that snake is coming after me. It's coming toward me." And just because it's coming toward you doesn't mean its intent is to attack you. Why do they do that though? Why do they come toward you like that? They seemingly follow you. And the reason I ask is because I've had that happen. I've had a snake come, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to stand around here and see what he wants. I'm going the other way. Why did they do that?
It may not have noticed you.
Really?
That's. It's possible. Probably not likely. But it may not have noticed you. I've had that happen before hiking. You have deer. Deer have all sorts of keen senses, and I've had deer walk right up to me before.
Oh,
and then as soon as they realize it's me, I'm there, they take off.
Right.
But I could see potentially the same thing happen with the snake.
How close how far away do you have to be for, those heat sensing, what did you call them, what the snakes have?
The heat pits?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been studies done on the distance. That's actually something that would be interesting to look up. I don't know. I do know that they are very sensitive to temperature, and they can pick up I think 1/100 of a degree difference or 1/10 of a degree difference.
Oh, holy smokes. That's pretty sensitive. Sounds like.
No, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There's
so
our
you can
friend.
see the heat pits right there. You can see the nostrils and then the eyes, and in between the two and below are the heat pits.
Is that those little dark little things I'm looking at?
Yes. That's what those are. And so this is actually a Western Diamondback, but it's not a typical looking Western Diamondback. This is one of the ones I have, and it's a captive bred. With the normal Western Diamondback, or most other snakes, besides maybe your cottonmouths, they're lighter colored, so you'll be able to see those heat pits a little bit better than on that particular snake.
Okay. Interesting. A little more visible or distinguishable. Interesting.
Can you address how you know a snake is about to strike you?
Rattlesnakes, obviously everyone knows about the rattles. You can tell their body language by, or tell their stress level by their body language. If they're coiled up, then, they can potentially strike you. Western Diamondbacks have that well-known where they kind of stand up, coiled. Everyone kind of seen those pictures. Those are pretty neat. So there's that. If you've got a snake slowly flicking his tongue or sticking out for long periods of time, that indicates stress, because their tongue is actually a sensory organ, like smell. It's almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? You can hear where something is coming from, but we can't smell where something is coming from. The split in the tongue is actually that, so that they can smell in direction. It's directional smell.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So that tongue coming out is not like, they're just being offensive and kind of flipping you off. It's they're trying to pick up their surroundings. They're stressed out, so they're slow flicking their tongue, and they're just trying to take in as much information as possible. Now, real quick, and we're going to jump to this commercial, but I'm going to ask you, when they cannot strike unless they're coiled up or they're back like this and strike, or do they have to be in a certain position in order to strike, or can it happen at any time?
It can happen at any time. It's more likely that they're going to defensively strike when they're coiled up.
Okay.
But snakes can strike sideways and stuff. It's not. They're not as effective at it, not as good of range, especially with the rattlesnakes. I know. I don't know about certain other snakes, but as far as rattlesnakes go, they can kind of strike sideways and stuff, but it's not the same distance or speed. But yeah, as long as you're about 3 feet away, 4 feet away from a snake, you're not likely to get bit.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, listen, when we come back, we're going to debunk a couple of things and find out a little bit more about this. But don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the Camping Show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV after these messages.
It is time to go camping. Introducing Campground Views virtual tours. You can tour the campground, see the sites, see if they are available, and click to book your perfect spot. Hit the open road and explore the amazing places found in nature. We make it easy to discover, find, and book your site so that you can go have the fun and freedom you seek. Campground Views virtual tours make it easy and simple for you to see where you are going.
And we're back with our guests, Bryan Jeffrey and Mark Etre on the camping show. Fellas, I've heard that copperhead snakes rather, travel in groups. Is there any truth to that?
Not at all.
One of the many myths.
Yeah, so
Oh,
another
yeah.
common myth is cottonmouths will be in a nest, and that's just not true either.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
There's always a story of my cousin's uncle's brother was jet skiing and fell into a nest of cottonmouths and got bit.
My cousin's uncle's brother did that too. No. Yeah, that's funny. And so let me ask you this. And I've had this experience, fellas. We were paddling down the river, and what everyone said was a water moccasin obviously wasn't. Now knowing some things, and especially after talking to you fellas the other day, many people commonly mistake snakes that are swimming for a water moccasin. How would someone be able to tell whether, in fact, it is a water moccasin, or is it cottonmouth, or just a water moccasin rather, as it were? How do you know? How do you tell whether what's what?
You want to take this one, Mark? You want me to?
Well, I'll start with something. I'll let you finish it. So,
Okay.
like in general, people are going to see a snake by the water and just assume it's a water moccasin.
Right.
And since this is a camping show, you're out in the wilderness. Enjoy the experience of just seeing the snake, because all you have to do is just leave it alone. So Bryan will, I guess, discuss some of the differences, maybe.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the best advice right there. You don't have to touch everything you see. Our parents taught us that when we were kids going through the grocery store.
Right. I used to get good smack for that.
Oh, there you go.
What are we looking at here? This is the water moccasin.
That's a banded water snake.
Oh, okay.
And you can tell so a lot of people, what they'll say is that the head of a water moccasin is more triangular shaped. The problem is the water snake will actually flatten and kind of puff out their head in a mimicry type of way to make people or make predators think it's a venomous snake.
Really?
So it can be difficult to tell the difference between the two.
Wow.
And so the other thing too is water snakes, they're pretty aquatic. They're found in the water often. They hunt in the water. Cottonmouths don't hunt in the water. They typically hunt around the banks of the water. But they're swimming around and stuff, so you're going to find them in similar areas.
Okay.
But it is hard to tell. Can you go back to that photo again?
Now this is what we just call a water snake.
Yeah. So a couple ways you can tell is, can you see? Hold on, I'm on my phone, so let me get up a little closer. So you can see on that there's no heat pits between the nose, the nostrils, and the eyes, right? So another way you can tell, and these are not good ways to tell because you have to get pretty close to the animal, and if you're not sure, maybe you don't want to do it. But another way is, the pupils of, I think, not all colubrids, but most colubrids are round, and that includes the water snake. So a water snake's pupils are round. Right here, you can see that. And a water moccasin's pupils are slotted like a cat eye.
Vertical.
Yeah.
You mean?
Okay. Now, if you want to be a bite statistic and reach for the snake to pick it up, you can. If you flip over the bottom, the belly of a water snake is like a checkered pattern.
Oh wow!
But again, you're kind of, if you don't know at that point, probably you don't want to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely.
They can be difficult to tell the difference, though. They really can.
If you can see, so they're really hard to tell the difference, but if you are within proximity to at least see the eyes, and if you're in bright sunlight, it probably shouldn't be too difficult. They're vertically, what'd you call them there?
Like cat eyes. Cat eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be a water moccasin.
Interesting. And these others, okay, that's good to know. That snake that day chased my buddy and I in our kayaks. And seemingly he was chasing us, and we would paddle faster. He would paddle faster. He was right behind us, and we're like, Okay, I'm not going to find out. I'm not going to stick around to find out what exactly it is, or it is not. So
Yeah.
and we were in the water. We weren't in our boats. We were trying to get back in our boats.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, so we're gonna get the hell out of here. Let's go back.
Is that the cat eyes you were talking about?
Oh, there you go.
Yep. So that's there. You've got the cat eyes right there, and then you can see that heat pit between the nostrils and the eyes.
Oh, that's really faint though on this one, isn't it? That little heat
yeah,
thing.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, if you know what you're looking for, you can see it pretty quick. You know.
Yeah.
They're also pretty heavy bodied too. And
yes. Well,
tend to float on top of the water.
Okay.
The only the thing about that though is that a water snake's going to be smaller, but if you're not really familiar with them and you don't see them side by side comparison like you're not going to in the wild, it's going to be hard to distinguish the difference between a water snake and a juvenile cottonmouth.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's very good information, fellas. Honestly, I like that. Hey, let's go back to bites again if we can, because I'm actually fascinated by that whole thing. By some of the stuff you just mentioned earlier. Now, several episodes back, wilderness medicine expert Dr. William Forgy was on the show, and he recommended that if you're bitten by a snake and you're in doubt whether it was venomous or not, you should err on the side of caution and assume that it is venomous, that is. Is there a distinct difference in the way that a bite from a venomous snake feels like on your skin or on your body? Is there a way that feels different from a venomous snake than that of a non-venomous snake? Mark?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
That was you, huh, Mark?
But I'll probably have you jump in at the end too. So with that, since I've never been bitten by a venomous snake, it's hard for me to tell that if there's a distinct difference in feel, because a lot of people that have been bitten by the vipers with long fangs don't even notice it. Sometimes it feels like a regular snake bite, is from what I hear, unless you're talking about the feeling of the venom kicking in. But about the error on the side of caution, if you do that and you go to the hospital, you're going to have a hefty hospital bill. So my suggestion, because if you believe it's venomous, you're probably going to convince yourself you're feeling some symptoms.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the best thing, in my opinion, is if you're in a new area, look up the snakes in that area and try to get an understanding. And if you have service, we have this technology. We can look up the snakes right there if you have service. But if not, then just get a general idea of what's around there
before you do the trip. Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. Brian, what do you want to add to that?
No, I think Mark actually covered that one pretty well. With a hemotoxic venom, it's going to cause tissue damage, and you're definitely going to feel that. But like Mark said, initially, you might not notice. It's when that venom starts acting, you're really going to feel it. But it is always best that if you don't know, go to the hospital, find out.
If you get bit and you say, well, you don't notice it at first. Do over the next several minutes, can you feel something different? Is it more painful if it's a venomous snake bite rather than the other, or is it pretty much not going to be a big difference?
I mean, like Mark said, I've never been bit either, so like firsthand experience, I couldn't tell you. But from what I've researched on it, is you're gonna feel it kick in fairly quickly, but maybe not within the first couple of minutes. I mean,
how long does it take?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, I threw that one. I was a surprise question. I didn't prepare you for that. I was going to ask that, but yeah.
I mean, I know, swelling can potentially start within a matter of minutes.
Oh, really?
Swelling doesn't typically feel good. So, and it depends on the animal too. Venom, it varies so much from one animal to another. It definitely is. There's a lot of key factors, and like Mark said, your best bet is just to learn the venomous snakes in your area. That's going to be the safest thing.
Yeah, I think that's a very wise thing. Do your research before
well,
you go. Roxy, have you ever been bitten, Roxy?
I have, but the only venomous snake that I have is a hog nose, which is equivalent to a bee sting. So he flattened his body out, got all fat. He hissed at me. I just got him, so he's new and not sure of his surroundings. So he bit me, and it felt like a bee sting. It got a little red, but nothing big. I didn't have to go to the hospital for it. But
what'd you do? Change his food or something without asking him, or what'd you do?
Well, he was a new snake. I just got him, so
yeah. Mark, you were gonna jump in there with something, and we cut you off. I apologize. What were you gonna say?
That's all right. I just wanted to adjust my answer and say that if you get bit, head to the hospital, but on the way, do some research if you can to try to find out what snake you're bitten by.
Oh,
But still, just it's better safe than sorry to at least head in the direction.
yeah.
So I got something to throw in there too, Mark. Well, I say I've never been bitten by a venomous snake. I've never been bitten by a medically significant venomous snake. I have been bitten by a false water cobra, which is a rear fang venomous colubrid. Unfortunately, I mean, I guess fortunately it's not a good. It wasn't a good bite. He didn't get a lot of venom in me or anything. But you know, my curiosity took over right away when it happened. The first thing I did was just wipe the blood off with my shirt and take a picture of it. Just because I wanted to get pictures of it through the stages of swelling if it got really bad, just to kind of document it.
Before you died. Yeah.
Well, no one's died from a false water cobra bite.
Right.
But yeah, no, that was the first thing I did, and I mean, it stung for a while. Their venom toxicity level is relatively high, but the venom yield is so low that it would take like 30 false water cobras chewing on you at the same time for it to be potentially lethal.
Well, you know, that kind of leads me into my next question. You know, if the bite, a little different, but if the bite is actually wet, I mean, you've got wet bite and a dry bite, as I understand it. I mean, how do you know the difference? I mean, just visually, I can see venom running down your skin. How do you know?
No, so I mean, typically, so that your statement in Australia, they actually, because their snakes are, like Mark said, very venomous. They actually have specific anti-venom for each snake, and they have a venom kit to where when you go into the hospital, they swab the area where the snake bit, and they're able to pick up what type of venom it was with the test and figure out what type of venom, anti-venom they use.
Holy smokes. That's pretty specific and scientific, right? Yeah.
But well, I mean, what's nice for us is in the United States, unless you're bit by a coral snake, you don't need to know what kind of snake, what kind of venomous snake it was. It's all the same anti-venom. But you're not. I mean, typically you're not going to be able to tell. The venom gets injected and it's going to run through your lymphatic system, and it. Oh, there you go. That's a Mexican black king snake.
What is it again?
A Mexican black king snake.
Mexican black king snake.
And a side note, while I don't condone free handling, the person in the background's actually holding a rattlesnake with his bare hands. And the girl down there is taking a picture of it.
Wow.
Can't say that's something I would ever do.
No, I don't do that. That's not something that I would do. I felt kind of left out, so I was just holding the colubrid.
you guys are a little young for this, but all that comes to mind is Evel Knievel. It's something you should.
That's Evel Knievel, yeah.
There you go. So that's me right there. When I'm holding a rattlesnake, I use a snake hook because that's the safest way to do it.
Right. That's interesting.
And there's an albino western diamondback.
That's a western diamondback, right?
Yes, it's an albino.
That's the one we used on the show promo here on social media. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you can actually really see the heat pits quite well in this one.
Why did the light colored? Yes, you can. It's very distinctive. Those little. Why do the light colored snakes just seem a little more harmless than the dark color?
Oh, this one is definitely not. The attitude on this one is insane.
Yeah, I've seen videos on her.
I see,
She's feisty.
Yeah, she would never give a dry bite either. She strikes and sprays venom when she strikes.
Wow. Hey, where on the body do most people get bitten, by the way?
So most people, the vast majority of people that get bit by a venomous snake are young adult males that are intoxicated. which also probably a decent side note, on their hands. So the vast majority of people that get bit by snakes are not the people that are hiking through the brush. It's the people that want to go and mess around with rattlesnakes.
You know, I own a pair of boots, and they are called, and they're like hunting boots, but they're called snake boots. And I guess because snakes can't pierce these boots, or aren't supposed to be able to. And I think, like many people, I assume that most people get bitten in the thighs. You know, for some reason. Well, I think I read this where somebody said, "Oh, you know, snakes can't strike you above the knee," or something like that, or whatever. Any truth to that? There's another myth, right?
Well, I mean, they're gonna go for the closest target, and since they're right on the ground, you know, it's gonna be a quicker strike to go lower.
But they can, in fact, go higher, though. You're saying it is possible.
I mean, they can, but you got a snake that can strike maybe about 2/3 of its body length.
There you go. That's what I was wondering too.
I mean, that's just a good general rule. You know, 2/3 its body length. You know, what speckled rattlesnakes, 3.5 feet long. A western diamondback maybe 5. Eastern diamondback 6 foot. So the more of an angle it's striking, the less of a range it has, you know, and it wants to keep you away. So it wouldn't make sense to strike up at your thigh. It knows your ankle is just as vulnerable as your thigh.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. Mark, I don't mean to leave you out of this because we've been talking with Bryan a bit here, but I do have one more question specific to him, and it's only because he's a camper, a regular camper. So I have to ask you, Bryan. How likely is it that a snake would make its way into your boots or into an open pack while it's stored in the vestibule of your tent? And I mean, wouldn't that be a heck of a surprise to find a snake in one of your boots if you're getting up in the middle of the night for a nature call? I mean, go, whoa. I mean, you might say, well, I don't need to go the rest of the way out. I've already taken care of what I need to came out here for, you know. But can it happen? Is it likely?
I mean, for my sake, I wish it was more likely to happen than it does. It would be something I'd be pretty happy to find. I don't think most people would.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah,
it's possible. It's definitely possible, but I don't think it's super likely. You know, it's always a good idea to keep your bag zipped up and everything. You know, if your bag's laying down on the tarp right there, the snake's probably more likely to go under the bag than in the bag or in your boots. Really? So yeah, I mean that's probably something to keep in mind. But anything's always possible, although it is unlikely.
Well, and you know, I assume because you're maybe you took your boots off, and it's maybe it's a cool weather day, and your boots after wearing them all day are still warm, a little moist. You know, and maybe they go, oh, looks like a great place to hide here, you know, that sort of thing. And the pack is dark and the boots might be dark and hey, I'll go in here and hang out. But
well, I mean, the size of my boots, I mean, unless you're Shaquille O'Neal, I don't think most rattlesnakes are really going to be able to get, you know, in there and feel super secure.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I could be wrong. Of course, a baby rattlesnake could, but you know, I don't think it would be likely to happen.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's a fear of, well, I know it was sort of a fear of mine. I thought, you know what? I don't think I need to, I'll put something, like I'll stick my socks in my boots tops so that they can't get in there or whatever and zip my pack. So.
I think there's other stuff that I'd be more worried about getting in my boots. You know, I wouldn't be too happy to be bit by a black widow or stung by a bark scorpion. I'd still knock my boots out. That's for sure.
All those fun things that you encounter out there. We make camping sound so much fun on this show, don't we, folks? All right. No, it's all good. Mark, let's jump to you now. What basic advice would you, and I'm going to ask both of you this question, what basic advice would you offer adventurers who know nothing about snakes and are completely afraid of them? And what would you tell them? What kind of advice would you say here? Here's the deal. If you're going out places and you're totally afraid of them, what would you tell them?
It's as simple as just leaving it alone. Think of it as an honor to be able to witness these awesome animals in the wild because they're very secretive and being able to see them is just such a cool experience. But I know that's not how most people feel. So it's
Sure.
as simple as just leaving it alone.
Don't go out of your way to make trouble for the snake and try to kill it. In other words,
Yeah, I mean, that's going to increase getting bit tenfold.
Yeah,
Leaving it alone, you're 0% chance of getting bit.
You know, and I'm going to bring this up before I jump to you, Brian. If you accidentally happen to stumble upon a snake and he's, don't get startled, don't freak out, just walk away calmly. Is that probably the best advice in that situation?
Yeah, and there's actually a question that we had discussed. I'm just gonna go over it real quick.
Yeah.
And if it seems like a snake is chasing you, let's say, there's few reasons. It's either going in the direction that you are to its hiding place, or let's say you're on a boat fishing. It's a resting spot for the snake to go, or because you're reeling in their prey. It's nothing about chasing.
Wow.
And yeah, once they see you, a big predator, they're gonna most likely just dart the other way. And lots of people say they've almost been bit by a snake, but that's just them seeing it. They just saw the snake, and that means they almost got bit.
Well,
And people see the snake coiled up at work all the time saying, look at it, ready to strike, but it's just sitting there coiled up, like they do that just to relax.
It's almost like winning $1 million. I almost won $1 million in a lottery one. Almost,
yeah.
Almost got bit by it. Ryan, how about you? What kind of advice would you offer listeners, just like what you asked Mark here?
Yeah, I mean, Mark nailed it. Like I said before, the vast majority of people are bitten on the hands. That's not because they're hiking on their hands. I don't think most people have the balance to do that. Leave it alone. Just leave the animal alone. Especially if you can't identify it, leave it alone. If it's a rattlesnake, and you're hiking down a trail and you hear a rattle, instead of trying to find it and look for it, just back out exactly the way you came, and nothing's going to happen.
That's pretty good advice. And what you just said there, back out the same way you came in until you know you're well clear of it. If you're unsure of, I
was thinking about that yesterday. I was like, I don't think that's something that a lot of people even think about. Like, if they see a rattlesnake, they want to find where it is, or if they hear a rattlesnake, as soon as you hear it, just start backing away, because you got inside of its area of comfort and it wants you gone. If you back out directly the way you came, then you're not going to risk getting bit.
Yeah, there's nothing like putting yourself in harm's way on purpose, is there? Absolutely. Well, fellas, thank you for that. Lastly, where can we find each of you on social media? Mark, let's start with you.
So Mark's Reptiles on pretty much all platforms except for Twitter. I don't have a Twitter.
Okay, and it's again, what is it, Mark's
Reptiles.
Mark's Reptiles. Gotcha. How about you, Brian?
So mine is on TikTok, OnlyFangs Official, and Instagram, it's OnlyFangs_official.
OnlyFangs, you say? OnlyFangs.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Like OnlyFans, but with reptiles.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
So genius.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen,
the hat represent. Love it.
Oh, cold-blooded parties.
There you go.
Beautiful Burmese.
Well, gentlemen and Roxy, I gotta tell you, you guys have been great. Brian and Mark, thanks for being guests on the camping show. It was an absolute pleasure having both you here, and thanks for helping me put this show together so well, so thoroughly, and so quickly. I really appreciate that. Let me read this real quick on the screen. Where I live, Newfoundland, Canada, there are no native snakes in recent years. Some garter snakes have come into the western part of the island in bales of hay, so they're sneaking in the hay. Very interesting show tonight. Thanks. Well, thank you, Mustang 774. We appreciate you chiming in.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you too
for
having us.
You're very welcome, fellas.
And Roxy for notifying us and getting in contact with us.
Yeah, she is a wonderful person as well as a fantastic producer. So thank you, Roxy. Well, I hope you'll tune in for next week's episode, Family Life in the Bush Up North, with special guest Kyle, Arden, and Rowan Loney. And once again, thank you for tuning into the camping show. This is CW Getz reminding you, learn more, do more. See you next week.